Welcome to Travel Tech 2023 USA and Canada 4 edition, where transformation begins. By becoming a sponsor at Travel Tech, you'll gain access to an exclusive platform to showcase your brand to a global audience. Here's why you should sponsor our event. Travel Tech provided knowledge to more than 167 countries. Travel Tech is the largest online event in the travel and hospitality industry, reaching the milestone of over 1,500,000 unique impressions in its events, delivering to the world knowledge, free education, inclusion, and effective networking for evolution in the industry, being an excellent means of showcasing your brand. Over 80,000 people attended our live events, generating more than 19,000 hospitality and travel-focused leads. Introducing Travel Tech Academy, a platform offering free courses designed to share valuable knowledge from the best professionals in the travel and hospitality industry. Our mission is to provide inclusive learning opportunities for those who may not have the means to gain qualifications otherwise. With Travel Tech Academy, you'll have access to top-notch resources and insights that can help propel your career in the travel and hospitality sector. Over 3,500 professionals have already taken the course on our platform, acquiring knowledge and improving their professional profile. Many professionals, through Travel Tech Academy courses, have managed to find better job opportunities in the job market. For more information, visit traveltechacademy.com. Stay tuned for the upcoming editions. Brazil and Portugal, taking place between May 23rd and 25th. APAC, happening between July 11th and 13th. LATAM and Spain, taking place between September 12th and 15th. EMEA happening between November 14th and 18th, thus concluding the events of 2023. And to become a sponsor of Travel Tech, get in touch through our website, traveltechspace.com, or by email at geraldo@traveltechspace.com. Travel Tech, what else?
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, where you may be. Day 2 at Travel Tech Forum US and Canada 2023. My name is Alex Gomez, VP of Commercial at Holibob, and I'm delighted to have this stellar lineup with me today. I know that there was some discussions earlier around guest engagement and things related to guest experience, but now we're going to delve into this big concept of revenue management. So I'm going to go through the lineup, allow everyone to introduce themselves in just a sec. Just to remind everyone, Travel Tech is the largest and leading global educational provider of content and platform for the travel, hospitality, and travel tech industry. And we're very proud to this year have been self-funded and kind of doubling down on the bet we have for this sector, giving more content, giving more education and courses so that we can professionalize and help the sector become stronger after what had been a couple of very difficult years. So I'm going to go start doing some roundups. I'm going to start with David Mullally, CEO at Logic. David, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
David, a little bit about Logic for the audience before we go in.
Yeah, so Logic is a revenue management platform. We center that around AI and machine learning, which obviously are buzzwords, but we leverage data that comes into our platform to help hotels make better decisions on pricing for not only just regular standard rooms, but also groups.
Well, thank you very much for that, David. And then next I have Mike Chuma, VP of Global Marketing at Ideas. Mike.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. So Ideas is also a revenue management system. We are the world's largest adopted revenue management system, but we don't just stop there. So we have revenue and profit optimization capabilities that go across the commercial organization. So if you think about revenue management as heads and beds, we also go into function-based revenue management. We go into ancillary. We go into other operational forecasting, as well as offer business intelligence tools to help you look across your portfolio for large franchisees, asset owners, all the way down to independents and smaller economy hotels. So we're super excited to be here, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Mike, for making yourself available. And then we have Bruce Jordan, and managing partner at Hotel Guest Management. Bruce, how are you? Just so you know, you're on mute. I'm going to use the most used catch line of 2022 and 2023. If you want to mute yourself while you introduce Hotel Guest Management. You're still on mute, Bruce. Can you unmute yourself? Yeah.
Is that better? There we go.
There we go.
Right.
Success.
You can hear my voice. I'm Bruce Jordan with Hotel Guest Management. I'm one of the top hotel revenue experts in the U.S. We manage hotel properties, a lot of value-add properties. We turn around a lot of properties that no one thought could be saved. So we have a lot of fun doing it.
Thank you very much, Bruce, for being with us tonight. Alex Hussner from Casago, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am based in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and with Casago, which is a franchise and vacation rental management company. We operate in 46 different states and in Mexico. And through our franchise model, we provide revenue management services, property management software, homeowner acquisition tools, guest marketing, homeowner marketing, and just operationalize and systemize processes to make the business more profitable for local operators.
Well, thank you very much for that, Alex. I think we're going to kind of unravel a lot of what you just said, because you hear revenue management is one thing, but then it's also horizontal, right? So I'm going to pick your brains in a little while. And then last but not least, friend of the house, Fulvio Gianetti from Libratech. Fulvio.
Hello, Alejandro. How are you?
Very good, you?
So my name is Fulvio Gianetti. I'm the CEO of Libratech, which is a revenue management system company. We are part of the Zucchetti Group, actually. We have many companies part of this group, PMSs, channel manager, RMSs. We work together to create, in terms of artificial intelligence, an ecosystem that can work in different industries, in different scenarios.
Well, good. Thank you very much for that, Fulvio. And before we go into the actual questions and how we're going to run this let me tell the panel that any kind of question you have, you please post them. The Travel Tech team will get them, and then we'll kind of put it in front of the panel today. But the idea is that we have some preset questions that we're going to ask our esteemed panelists, but then it's all about a discussion and just sharing insights and sharing with the audience some good practices, because this is a time to capture the most opportunity and really future-proofing our businesses, right? So if you're okay, I'm gonna just kind of jumpstart this, and I'm gonna go to David, and this is something that burns my brain. David, it is 2023. We're past pandemic, out of legacy, and there's still hotels that don't use a revenue management system. Educate me, please.
Yeah, so I joined Logic in September, and it's been an education for me. It was my first time leading a revenue management company, but it does appear like there's still a lot of hoteliers that are set in their ways with getting reports and using Excel spreadsheets. I think that we're past that, and that it's really to a point where hotels need all the data they can to make the right decision. They need a system, whether it's us or whether it's one of the other providers. So it seems as if also it's tough to get to the revenue managers in some cases. Post-COVID, there's a lot of people that are working remote. So you can go on LinkedIn, you can email them, but you can't get them on the phone. But I think things are changing. And I think like with other technologies, like voice and things of that nature, I think you'll see a mass adoption of revenue management technologies, even more so as we move into the future.
I think, David, that is very interesting, and feel free everyone to jump in and ask questions or share some insights. But you just said like voice would be one of the drivers to get more adoption, right? Has revenue management technology not been sufficient enough to drive that adoption? I remember someone always saying that like global RMS adoption across the industry is less than 5%, right? So you have the big of the big using it, then like some, I'm going to use the term bottom feeders, but get me right, it's like small, medium businesses using it, but there's still very large untapped EAM on this, right? So what are those things that you would say have prevented from further adoption?
Well, for us, what we've done is we really view our platform as a revenue co-pilot for the revenue manager. I think there is a little bit of fear. Is the AI good enough right now to actually put something on autopilot? So it's kind of like with a Tesla and just letting the car drive itself. It might do a better job, but there's still that fear we're going to get into a crash. So I think it's a little bit baby steps, maybe for the smaller branded properties or independent hotels where they need to just start getting on a platform to begin with, and then leverage that. And over time, as the systems get smarter and smarter, then we'll be more ready for some sort of automation.
Good. And then let me potentially, the piggyback on that would be, isn't it that the product is already too commoditized and we haven't been able to kind of really convey the value proposition of an RMS to the hotels to drive more adoption? Again, it cannot be just people, although you could say that after COVID, you also lack the human resource to actually drive this, because to your point, this is not self-driven right now, right? Potentially, I don't want to open the ChatGPT kind of worms here, but but then you will get there, but you still need a human being behind this, driving this Formula One race car to take your like pricing decisions. Is it just that? Is it price? Is it cost? Is it a legacy mentality?
Well, I think that you look at again, Mike's on the panel here. Ideas has done a great job in getting the word out and getting in front of hoteliers. There's others, I won't name them since they're not on the panel. And there's companies like Logic, which is really really more of a new player. We kind of are doing a reboot after COVID. So I think it's just a question of just getting, hoteliers, we all know who are on this panel. It's tough to sell into hoteliers. So for us, we have to just keep pushing and keep educating and, really just show the value to the hoteliers that they should be using some platform.
So let me use that as Mike, you want
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to just jump in. I think what David says, is obviously on point, but you got to take into consideration, you think about, Alex, you said biggest of the big down to the middle level estates. Look, the outset of COVID, if you think about COVID as being long in the past, right? What it did is it forced people to actually do the things that they had been talking about for decades, right? So if you think about that impact on revenue management or even staff at the commercial level, all the way down to the revenue manager, it actually put a high premium on the value of not just a revenue manager, but understanding how to maintain competitiveness in your market space for your comp set. And so what it did is it made people realize that, I've got to be able to invest in this. So what it did is it changed it from a nice to have for the biggest of the bigs to something that's not necessarily commoditized, but an absolute backbone necessity of your tech stack. Now roll downstream, right? There's 700,000 properties around the world that are considered hotels. The average size of that property is going to be about 43 to 50 rooms. They're going to be owned by somebody it's their main source of income, right? So when you think about it from that lens, you have to create something that allows for them to be able to interact with the system, because AI is not going to fix it. AI as an enabler. And we've been doing it for the better part of 33 years, starting with machine learning all the way up to AI. But it comes down to a couple of things. How is it going to help me make more money? How is it going to make my operation more efficient? And how is it going to help me create generational wealth, which is, in reality, at least here in the United States, one of the main components of why people get into the hotel ownership business anyway.
And why would you say that is, Mike? Why are people still betting on the hotel business?
Because it's a massively successful asset class. It allows you to be able to understand the core of why people want to travel, the core of human need. And in order to do that, you have to have different types of hotels across different types of offerings. And so the fundamentals of how a hotel operates, no matter whether you're a luxury all-inclusive resort or you're an economy, 75-room roadside motel in Mississauga, Ontario, you have to have the fundamentals of, am I charging the right price? Am I getting the right occupancy? And am I actually making margin with my staffing and operations on what I'm charging for what I'm offering? Revenue management is at the core asset of that. It's just dependent upon what makes sense for the user to then engage with.
And it's a very interesting point you make, because then at the end of the day, it's about making money, right? So people get into this business to solve a fundamental human need, but they also need to be profitable, right? So all the dash is cash is king, right? You need to make money out of it. Actually, if in hindsight, pandemic just proved that we were building unsustainable businesses. I mean, travel. Let's just forget hotels specifically for a minute. Like they were at insane burn rates, not making any profit, and hey, there's no business now. I cannot sustain myself anymore, right? So, and that was true for hotels, true for airlines, true for everyone else. So cash is king. And getting it back to the hotelier level, Mike, what are the things that they can focus on their commercial strategy? How do they make more profitability? Because I think that when we talk revenue management, people just associate profitability, right? It's like, oh no, we're just optimizing rates, but it's about the bottom line as well that you want to get an impact on, right?
Yeah. So I guess the best way, or something that you can take away, is I call it basically 4 rights to get it right. Right. So the 4 rights square, if you will. Right. So it allows you to circle those things, and it's right people, right price, right place, and right experience. And so when you think about operating a hotel, revenue management is a key component of that, but you also have to go and talk with the people around you in your property, whether it be the GM, the sales and catering manager, if you have one, your distribution manager, if you have one, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you have a different type of management structure. But those 4 rights that help you circle in on that cash, when it comes to revenue management, it's the right people, like matching your guests against your targeted business mix, using those capabilities of the information that you get in from the revenue management system and the functional teams and those cross-functional meetings, and running what-if scenarios and saying, hey, look at your historical business mix, look at what your future on books looks like, look at all the other stuff that's happening around the hotel, and really get a good idea of what you want to focus on for that segment. That's going to help you understand the quality of that business coming in, matching against that segment profitability, and make those strategic adjustments. The right price, obviously we're in revenue management, so we want to get the right information so you can identify the appropriate pricing and discounting or promotional methodologies to identify what will convert that target mix from the source destination. Then build your rate structures and strategy and packages around that. Right place is determine how and where to distribute against your strategy. I mean, if you are a city center hotel that is associated with a brand, you may not have to rely upon going straight out to OTA, and you can have that right type of mix and then determine your direct to OTA business mix. What types of floors and ceilings you have for the business that's going to be distributed out to those channels, and when to turn them off versus when to turn them on based on pickup. And then finally, right experience. I mean, it's all about, your guests, need, whether they just need a bed and a shower, or they want to be able to have a nice dinner, have a nice view at the property that they're at, and each guest is looking to engage differently, whether it's business, whether it's leisure, and look at proactively how to generate those other ancillary revenue activities around those, and partner with people in your hotel and out of your hotel to be able to drive those right types of packages. So that's, if I can narrow it down, it's the 4 rights square.
And Mike, that is super interesting. And let me be selfish for a minute.
Yeah.
Coming from a travel tech company myself that actually works with tours and activities at the moment, you just talked about right experience, right?
Yeah.
We're associating that to the concept of revenue management. I'm going to use David's word on, like, it's 2023 and we're still thinking revenue management as a single asset optimization. It's just the bedroom. And do hotels fail to see the ancillary revenue opportunity out there and how to play it into the ecosystem or not? Like, how are revenue management systems, you're all revenue management systems to a point, is how are you thinking about that larger opportunity, right? So it's not about just optimizing your room rate and getting it distributed, right?
No.
What that are for experience, basically.
It's, I mean, the industry term that you're going to hear is RevPAG, revenue per available guest, which is basically the amount of the share of the trip wallet that you want to be able to play in, right? So let's use an example here. From a revenue management, or actually we actually really go towards profitability, because then you can start looking at the other profit mixes that go in, the channel that they come in from, what their rate is, how much they're going to spend in the sundry shop, whether or not they're going to need to buy sunscreen, whether or not they're going to need to have food and beverage or bar charges. All that kind of goes into the mix. But let me give you a very specific example. If you are targeting a specific type of business mix, say, you know, a leisure plus business traveler, they're typically, and you give them a package for a stay over, their flight's going to be cheaper, they decide to stay a couple extra days. What you're going to be able to do is, from an operational standpoint, to really impact your NOI, you'll be able to then say, I need to have housekeepers in because my booking pace looks like X. I know that they're going to have a food profile of Y. And then I'm going to need to have turnover, kitchen breakage, all the way down to trash. You can get to it with operational forecasting if you look at it the right way. The other thing is that you can also look at other types of data in your CRM to say, I've got a segment cohort that looks like this for this rate type and this rate class. Look at other opportunities, and you can send your sales and catering person out to those tours and travel operators to be able to look at the other type of ancillary revenue, and then you can create the programs around it. And then if you want, you can even create promotional mixes to be able to drive the association through the booking process, whether it be booking, pre-stay, at-stay notification, or even post-stay notification for different types of marketing post-stay.
Well, I'm loving this. I think I'm going to leave it on the parking lot saying maybe we coin a new term, which is technically profit management, because technically at the end of the day, you don't want to manage revenue, which might be loss making. You want to manage profit, right? At the end of the day, you have to make money. And RevPAG is actually one goal. So yeah, I mean, super interesting. But you just mentioned something that I would like to bounce off Bruce, is you talked about OTAs, right? They've been there. We know them. They are like controlling, or they're growing in terms of share for online bookings. We know how online bookings are progressing. And an OTA today is not what they were born to be, right? At least they've been evolved since the 2000s. And it presents a lot of challenges and a lot of like difficult decisions at some point for hoteliers, right? So Bruce, what is it that you see that has changed on those, well, I would call it marketplaces today rather than online travel agencies, to be honest. And what do revenue managers need to do to kind of cope with them, or even face the music?
Well, one thing is a lot of revenue managers, they don't understand numerology. They're so busy trying to set a rate, they don't understand how what the numbers mean to a guest. Like if I say the number 69, that means something specific to each person here. If I say 9/11, that also means something specific to each person here. If I say 7/11, that means something specific. So they're so busy just trying to set a rate. They don't understand that a lot of these rates have negative connotations or positive connotations to the guests that are reading them. Like I never use a rate of 119 because it's too close to 9/11. I use 7-Eleven because people see 7-Eleven all the time. In reverse, it's 11:17. So over here in the US, the guests see 7-Eleven all the time. So I just reverse it and I post it. The next thing is they really missed the boat when they noticed that the OTAs took off the cents. So if you go to the gas station, you see the gas rate of 3.50. It's not 3.50. It's $3.50 99. But we never see that small little 99 at the end of that price. It's the same thing with the OTAs. OTAs don't advertise rates like $99.99 anymore. The only thing you see is $99. So the first thing I had to do is I had to customize my revenue management strategy to adapt to that change. And what I did was I implemented the Bruce Jordan 49-cent rule because they always round up. So if you make a rate for $99.50, the guest is going to see $100. If the guest is going to see $100, you might as well just take the whole thing. Take the whole thing up to the nearest 49 cents. And what I was able to do, I was able to capitalize off of that, and I was able to generate an additional $25,000 to $45,000 just because I got that additional cent per reservation that the guests didn't even see into checkout anyway. So they have to adapt their styles and change their styles and incorporate that in the changes as the OTAs and a lot of the other major players are making those changes, because by doing that, they're either taking money away from themselves or leaving too much money on the table.
Bruce, what would you say is who are the most guilty of leaving money on the table? What are those practices outside of like rounding up or prices? What are the other things that people are doing that lead to leaving money on the table?
I think the most important is the numbers that they use to set the rates and not making them that they're not aware how the guest sees that particular number.
I mean, I'm going to coin the term contextual revenue management here, or contextual rate setting, right? I mean, potentially it's very US centric, but it is true that if you see a 7-Eleven rate, you immediately have a brand association and a price association to it, right? You might not have that in Spain with Fulvio, but like there's 500 million people in the US, like immediately you're going to make a connection to that, right? But I don't think we ever even kind of discussed this in the industry, right? So what the numbers mean to a person. I mean, there's price elasticity and price sensitivity, but I don't think it's getting more evolved, and it's getting even more like, to your point, very granular as to what the consumer is seeing on the other side, right? Again, they're exposed to a lot of information. A lot of them might know revenue management practices themselves, so they know what they're looking at, right?
Correct.
Good. I mean, and then an OTA is posting all this content in, and now we see a big push, and this is close to heart for me because of my past, with the rise of short-term rental coming in, new class of asset, different kind of economy for the same product. Alex, what do you see at Casago when you talk about revenue management? We know that they were always seen as less evolved, like in terms of asset class and property, but now you see a lot of very elaborate, very cutting-edge revenue management strategies coming from property managers and everything. And how do you think that impacted hotels? Has it forced them to do other stuff differently?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's interesting to me that I thought that all hotels did revenue management now. So it's interesting to hear that there's some that don't, because a few years ago, that was 100% how, people looked at short-term rentals. It was like, that it was a new thing for all of us. But post-COVID, there has been such an influx of money and attention and just incredible knowledge and technology that have come into our space. And what that's resulted in is far superior software that we've never had prior to that, and really some great ability to manage rates in a way that it definitely goes toe to toe with the hotels. The complicated part of short-term rentals is we have two bosses. So I mean, or as a revenue manager, you actually have more than that, but you have the guests and you have the homeowners, and then obviously the people who own the company. Homeowners and trying to get them to understand revenue management is definitely something that is debated often in our industry. And it's a challenging conversation for owners that have been on programs for many years and are used to, back in the day, the company would set their rates for what they would get for a 7-night stay, and they used to post the rates on the website, and it was very easy for other companies to see those. And now to change things and say, we're not posting rates. I can't tell you exactly what the rate's going to be for that week, but you have to trust me that I'm using data, and I'm using the historical data and market data to make these decisions. And once you get the homeowners on board with it, in most cases they understand they're getting a lot more money at the end of the day. But it's interesting. I think in a lot of ways, short-term rentals, our technology on the property management software side has far advanced a lot of the hotels that are out there. I'm in the Myrtle Beach market, and in this market, we've got a lot of properties that are condo resorts, that they are independently owned condo resorts. They're homeowner properties, they're condos, but they are run more like hotels. But unless you're with some of the the big flag software, I don't feel like independent hotels have had software that has been able to really that has kept up in the way that we're seeing those advancements within the vacation rental tech. And that's given vacation rentals an advantage, quite honestly. And I think when we look at rates and what's going on in the markets this year, this is going to be a challenging year for all of hospitality. Short-term rentals is certainly seeing it. The advantages that we had over the last few years are gone. And I have a podcast that we had Key Data come in the other day, and her line was, this year your competition is back. You've got international, you've got cruise, you've got urban, properties that are now part of the mix. And now it's more back to 2019, where you've got to really go up with your best game face to be able to fight for that business. A year ago at this time, our ADRs were up 15% over 2021, and our booking window was up 14%. That's now backwards. I mean, that's reversed back to normal. So this has been just a complete, I think, just leveling out kind of year, or it's going to be a complete leveling out kind of year. But the people that bought short-term rentals in the last couple of years, that they are expecting that they're getting those rates of 15% higher than what they were last year, they're going to be disappointed. And I think that's going to end up that there's going to be a lot more properties that are going to come up for sale because of that. So it's going to be a really interesting year for revenue management and short-term rentals and just hospitality in general, I think.
I couldn't agree with you more, Alex. And having a short-term rental data background myself, is you saw that the behavior through 2020 and 2021 with COVID in place, or even beginning of 2022, actually drove that increase in ADR and booking window, because technically you had forced travel distances or shortened travel distances. Even in the US, it's even more exponentially showed, because the problem you have to manage the market dynamic is you have such a large market and you only had one asset class open, right? So you couldn't do only that, or you were doing secondary markets, you couldn't do international. Now, to your point, everything is up and running, right? So you see flights going through the roof, you see cruises back at full speed. So a buy-side investor who's actually put money, and these are all individuals in most of the cases, right? Buying a home and expecting that return. Maybe the question would be in there, do you think we've made it difficult for them to just share the knowledge that we have in terms of data and say, well, this is what you should expect? Because some of them have been presented with complex revenue management solutions, and they're just buy-side investors that what they want to do is buy a house, give it to someone, and get money back, right? So don't bother with me the details. Just tell me how much money you're going to give me.
Yeah, and there's two types of people that invest in short-term rentals. They're the investment side, and then there's people that they're doing it because they want this property, they want to be able to use it on vacation, they potentially want to retire to it, or they want to pass it down in their family. And the objectives are different between those two. That if it's a personal thing, that house means something to you, and you might not care so much if you're not making the same amount of money as you did last year, versus the investors that they're getting into this. They know what that return needs to be. They've got fixed costs and they need to meet those. One of the issues we saw in the last couple of years is that with this influx of demand of people wanting to buy these short-term rentals, realtors are using sites that are using scraped data to get the performas and what these properties would produce, and they're vastly oversetting the expectations for these new homeowners that us as professional property managers that have been in the business for many years, we're using tools that are using true data that is connected to property management systems and is actually fairly realistic. So it created a little bit of an issue for our side, that if a person bought a property and they talk to the realtor, and the realtor says, if they're getting it from AirDNA or a scraped site, this is how much you should expect to make. And the person's thinking, well, do I self-manage or do I take it to a property management company? They now go to the property management company, and we're giving them true data, but it's not as rosy of a story as the other one. Now they're also thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to let them manage it because they're going to give me less money, and I have to pay 15 to 25% commission on it. So you have this huge influx of self-managed properties that are on the market, and most are also not using the best revenue management strategies on there. You've got just a wild west of rates. It's kind of like the perfect storm. I'll say it's interesting, to put it lightly.
Well, thank you for that. And so using that and knowing that hotels are not using RMSs, lots of STRs are not using RMSs, but the technology itself is going to a point where AI is being used at highlights. Machine learning is part, it's embedded. There's prediction. You just touched about like true data versus predictive data versus like highly rosy data. I mean, Fulvio, what's your take coming from a true tech company and being very horizontal, like with Zucchetti, but also with Libra, is what is that role of AI? How do you see RMSs going forward? What are the biggest changes that we can expect?
Thank you for this question. Now here is night, and when it's night, since I have 2 degrees, one in data science and the other one in sociology, when it's night, I'm more sociologist than data scientist. So it means that I want to speak. Yes, there are many implications in this. There are many enhancements that we can bring to the table about this topic. But I think that we need to think that artificial intelligence and machine learning needs a lot of data. So to run a system with machine learning, you need many data, because otherwise the output is not so good as using averages, for example. So it doesn't mean that you have to use artificial intelligence always in revenue management. There are some cases when you are, for example, small hotel, but also in some cases where you don't have enough data. The normal approach, the traditional approach, works better than artificial intelligence, than applying artificial intelligence principles. This is very important to stress, because it seems that artificial intelligence can be applied everywhere, but it's not true. Second, artificial intelligence needs a lot of power. So in terms of computational power, you need to balance quite often the output with the time that you need to run an algorithm with artificial intelligence. And sometimes, probably, you need to find a sort of balance and equilibrium among those two things. If you go going further, I think that one of the most enhancement can be done in terms of predicting the demand, so in forecasting. Because now we are approaching new data sets, new kind of data, not only historical data, but also the demand data. I'm not only talking about the competitors, because competitors' data in terms of prices, they have a lot of bias, because you don't know what they're doing at the end. So why they are present, that including these data set without putting a weight or understanding the reason behind you are not improving your system. I think.
Julio, can I ask you something on that? It's
Yes.
I'm going to challenge you on this, and you know me. So being friends, I'm inclined to do this. Is it that we're getting too hung up on the taxonomy and discussing AI and everything? Because at the end of the day, the hotelier doesn't care. Like literally, you can put the best engine under the hood of your Formula One. I still think that the hotelier just wants you to explain them in a simple way how you're going to drive them to profitability. He doesn't care whether it's kick-ass ChatGPT behind the tool or something. Like, have we gotten to a point where, like, travel tech technology, I'm speaking outside of revenue management here because you come from a world where you know this, has gotten so hung up on discussing what is so cool about the technology itself that we're not talking about solving the real problem, which is making more money?
Yes. So they need to make more money in a smarter way, let's say. But also the systems should be smart. And artificial intelligence, maybe the enhancement, I think, because what's happening before we were talking about the total market available in terms of hotels which are not using revenue management systems. But there are even more if we consider apartment, B&B. So it's a very huge number.
To Alex's
Most
point,
of those
right?
hotels, they don't want to know anything about numbers. They just want the output, the insights, the action. But to let's say to give something, so to satisfy those kind of needs from this kind of segment, which are smallest hotels, for example. Obviously, you need to take care about all the calculation, computation, the better way. So you should. That's our job, creating a system that works. And artificial intelligence is just one of the way you can use to optimize these kind of results. Because at the end, what they care, as you said, is more revenues, more profits. Sometimes more revenues is more important than more profits. Because for some hotels, the smallest one, profits is not the main thing because they need to generate money without, even if the costs are high, it's not sustainable way, but it's the way they run the business.
Very interesting point. I know that we are 10 minutes away from the hour, right? So potentially knowing that there's going to be a lot of questions on this subject, which is always spiny and everyone has an opinion about it. Maybe we can do a round about what is revenue management done in 2023? What should we expect from, can we call it the revenue management industry for hoteliers? What is it that you're seeing coming up? Mike, do you want to go first?
Sure. What do we see in 2023? Given that we're almost halfway through, I think the indications are pretty good. I think what we need to talk about, in my opinion, is 24. The practice of revenue management all the way down into I'm going to say the back half of the tail. The longer tail is going to be the 15, 20 room properties, or even down to 6-room properties that are located above a pub. But if you go back upstream, if you're an independent hotel owner, you live at your property, you typically have a PMS that has a big button that says check people in. You rely upon the income of that hotel to feed your family. You want that income of that hotel and the asset value of that hotel to go up so you can go get more money to either refurb or go up the brand and franchise strategy, because there's levels of income, or you want to buy another property. It comes down to believability, right? So to Fulvio's point, we're not going to AI our way out of this. AI is a component. You have to tell the system what you know that the system doesn't know. So then the system can tell you something that it knows that you don't know. And it's a circle. That's the whole concept of AI. It's an optimization circle. But for 2024, it's going to come down to something that Alex mentioned, which is, hey, we know that we have ADR pressures coming in. There's going to be funkiness in the micro and macroeconomic climate. The Fed's, US Fed and the UK are trying to figure out what their rates are going to look like. How much disposable income do people have? But 2024 is going to be a year of reckoning to where people start to make that balance of how do I actually need to manage my rate structure? How do I deal with the competitive pressures? And how do I apply the lessons from 2020 and 2021 that I learned to make sure that I continue to not, let the wheels fall off the bus? It is a year of adoption. It will be a year of adoption. It's an adoption for revenue management systems that are going to be here. And it's a year of people trying to figure out, the hotel industry and the short-term rental industry, trying to figure out, how do I get the data so I can make good decisions? But also, how do I make better decisions for more places so I can centralize my labor, which is centralizing my revenue management system, which is also centralizing how I can create dollars.
Thank you for that, Mike. It's super interesting, especially when you talk about 2024 and like macroeconomic pressures, right? Which you never get to discuss most of the time with the hotels, right?
Yeah, ADR is going to be down to 4.3% is what they're projecting, which goes back to what Alex was saying on the short-term rental rate compression. But what that's going to do is we're going to see rates even out. And the street is going to start pushing hoteliers, and hoteliers are going to start saying, hey, how can I get incremental ADR growth? In reality, they have shareholders to be able to look back against them. So that's why people are going to really start trying to figure out, how do I actually leverage this technology to create efficiency?
Yeah. And Alex, let me use Mike on this for a second. Do you see hotels pressuring the short-term rental industry? Like, are you getting the kind of the loop back?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just maybe not directly, but indirectly for sure, just because of there's just more demand for travel. There's more demand for people traveling to hotels for urban. I think, the main thing that we benefited from in COVID is just people that had not previously stayed in a short-term vacation rental. Now they understand what that product is. And that continued demand will still elevate us, but it's like we jumped so far ahead last year that any backing down of that is going to seem like we're going backwards. But it's we'll be further ahead than we were in 2019, but not nearly like we were the last couple of years. And I think the hotels know we are now not just an alternative accommodation option. Short-term rentals they're not anything new. They've been around for decades, but COVID really amplified what an Airbnb, what the product is and what the sector is all about.
Yeah. And Alex, let me just round up with a question there. What do you think about midterm rental?
That's interesting too, and we get a lot of requests and questions about that now. People that are thinking, maybe it's better to convert my property to something like that. There's definitely demand for it. I mean, traveling nurses, business people, lack of inventory, cost of living, just trying to find affordable housing. There's reasons why midterm rentals make a lot of sense. We have some markets that have 30-day minimums. So by default, and then those have been enacted within recent years because of restrictions. But it's not our primary focus. So I can't completely speak to it, but I do believe it's going to be a rising part of the industry.
Interesting. Well, and capturing that data also will be very important for your revenue management strategies, right? And David, like doing this roundup, just getting close to the hour, is if Mike said this will drive adoption, right? So 2024 macroeconomic pressures will make sure that hotels kind of start using this. What else do we need to do to help them come to terms with the fact that they have to implement?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's the adoption and the education. I mean, think about it. When's the last time you used a map versus a GPS? So, hoteliers are going to be lost if they don't adopt the technology. I think the other thing is really just the openness to have a little bit of trust too in the AI. We were just on a call with a client who said they felt they were using a platform, but they were putting these fences, hurdles, highs, lows, and my competitor did this, do that. And they were like, at the end of the day, they're like, we're just counterproductive to what the system is doing, because just because we think our competitor is at X, we should charge $5 more. Maybe the AI and maybe the system is actually wanting us to sell for $10 more, and that's the right thing to do. So I think, hoteliers are slow to adopt new technology, but again, if you don't have a GPS, you're going to get lost. And if you don't have a revenue management platform for I would say, remainder of this year, and to Mike's point, going into next year, you're going to be lost as a hotelier amongst your competition and in your market.
Well, thank you very much for that. So I would say 4 minutes, we can go around and just part with a golden nugget of wisdom to the audience and then leave a couple of minutes for question. So maybe I can start with Bruce. Bruce, if you had to leave one single comment to this audience saying, get ready, this is the year of reckoning. I think I'm picking up on Mike's comment. What would you say to them?
I'll say get ready to see the divorce rate increase between sales and marketing, and you're going to see the marriage rate increase between revenue management and marketing. People are out there, they have they're spending 80% of their budget on a sales team that produces 30% of the revenue. It doesn't make any sense mathematically. And at the end of the day, you could make your rate 99 cents. If nobody sees it, they can't book. So you're going to see a lot of people pouring all their marketing dollars into revenue management to promote the rates that they're setting. And it's going to be lightning fast.
I know. Thank you very much for that, Bruce. And I know that I'm going to get into the rabbit hole here, but where should the consumers be looking at those rates?
You're going to be seeing them on social media. You already see it because Booking.com and Expedia and all the other big OTAs, they already do it. They already have retargeting campaigns throwing rates in your face. Book, it's only $100. It's 50% off from last time you stayed here. They're going to do it all day long. So we have to be counterproductive and we have to compete with these OTAs. So that's going to be the next step that you're going to see.
Good. I'm going to pick your brain after this. So OTA, yes or nay, for sure. Fulvio, parting comment, golden nugget of wisdom.
Sorry, could you come again? Because
so what I'm saying is, can you share like a tagline or just one comment to the audience to say what they should expect or what should they do after this? Like end the session, run to the hills and get a revenue management system kind of thing.
So it's difficult for me, this part. I'm only a data scientist. I cannot handle this, but start thinking how to implement new technology in their process, no? Because each hotel has a process, has a structure. For many of them, sometimes seems difficult to put another piece of technology in this kind of structure. But sometimes the benefits are higher than the profits or issue price.
Okay, thank you for that. And Mike?
Final nuggets of wisdom: 4 rights, right price, right place, right product, and right experience. But if your questions around revenue management and adopting it is get past your internal politics, get past your need for having to prove every little bit of ROI, focus on the data provision that you have and do it now, because if you don't, you will be behind the competition.
That's a scary thought, right?
Correct.
And finally, Alex, parting knowledge of wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point that was raised earlier about, you could raise your rates or drop your rates, but if nobody sees them, what's the point, right? So, I mean, I think looking at this from that lens too of, building your direct booking strategy, using revenue management in that to drive the best bookings to your direct strategy. Those are the most profitable. Everybody should be thinking about that, whether your stakeholders are yourself, if you own your hotel, or if you're a management company, or an individual owner. There's no matter how you look at it, at the end of the day, you have to be thinking about the profit per booking and what your expenses are. And the software is out there. There's a lot of great software out there that eliminates the fear that a lot of people have of, don't trust turning my whole strategy over to AI in a system. A lot of the tech that's out there now lets you do kind of a hybrid of both, that it's gives you the suggestions, but ultimately you're still in the driver's seat. And I think anybody who's on the fence about using it, that's the best way to start getting into this side of the business.
Well, with that, Alex, thank you very much, everyone. It was an absolutely eye-opener, and I think we covered a lot of points. I didn't get to ask you OTA yes or nay. I'm going to leave it with you, and then you can come back to me or the audience by writing. I'm not going to put you in that predicament, but I thank you for the time. I'm going to thank Travel Tech for having us all today here. Thank for the audience to be participating. And I think if we can open the floor for questions, if there were any, and if not, please reach out to Ideas, Kasago, Logic, MJ, and Libra Tech for any revenue management questions. Look at products, please. Adopt it. It will be the key to your survival. And what I'm obsessed about is the key to profitability in the end. So thank you very much, everyone. And we do have the Travel Tech team there with us, Vinicius. So if you want to do some party comments.
Who wants to go first?
I don't think we have. I'm just going through the chats. Any questions, please remember to post them there. And if not, we're kind of wrapping up the session. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a very good day, very good night, wherever you are. And yeah, have a blast.
Thank you.
Good to meet some of you, and good to see you, Bruce. Take
Yeah,
care.
thank you, everybody.
Good
Nice
to
to
see
meet you all.
everybody.
Take
Thanks
care.
for having me.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Ciao, Alejandro.
All right.